Hey, welcome back to Already Overbooked. Today we're going to be going through and talking about a story that goes through and grabs you by the throat on page one and does not let go until it's done dragging you through every smoky back alley in Los Angeles. I'm talking about Sandman Slim by Richard Kadrey. This is a story that isn't your polished high fantasy world of noble quest and ancient prophecies. This is dirty. It's angry. It's grindhouse fantasy. It's a revenge story dipped in gasoline, lit with a cigarette, and narrated by a man that's been through hell, literally. What I love about this book is how unapologetically raw it is. And Kadri goes through and writes like he is channeling the ghost of a pulp detective and punk rocker. The results, a story that's equal part noir grit and supernatural chaos with just enough dark humor to make you feel guilty for laughing. So if you ever wondered what would happen if Constantine, John Wick, and Ash from Evil Dead all shared a single bad day, Sandman Slim is your answer. So, yeah, Sandman Slim doesn't ease you in. There's no soft opening, no gentle world building chapters where everything's explained neatly. Richard Kadrey just kicks open the gates of hell and says, "Good luck, you are on your own." So let's go through and talk about what actually goes down in this bloody, soaked revenge story, because from the first page, you realize this isn't about a hero's journey, it's about survivor's fury. So let's go and jump in to the plot. James Stark isn't supposed to be alive. 11 years ago, his so called friends, a bunch of ego driven magicians, betrayed him and sent him to hell. Not a metaphorical one, the real deal. A place where you don't get a redemption arc. You get torn apart by demons until you learn how to fight back. And Stark does fight back. He doesn't just survive hell, he really thrives in there. He becomes a fighter in their pit, and he becomes a legend in hell, a man that even monsters themselves whisper about. They go through and call him Sandman Slim, part demon, part magician, and nothing but rage. Then one day, he escapes. He claws his way out of the underworld and lands back in Los Angeles, which in this world might as well be hell with some better lighting. The city's dirty, it's cynical, and it's crawling with angels, demons, supernatural hustlers just trying to make rent. But Stark's not here in LA just to go through and sightsee. He's got a hit. He wants revenge on the people who sent him to hell to burn, especially the one who murdered the woman he loved. And every move he makes leaves bloody paths in its wake. And every clue he uncovers pulls him deeper into the war between heaven and hell that's been raging right under the LA surface. Sandman Slim isn't just an urban fantasy revenge tale, it's chaotic. It's bullet riddled exorcism of guilt, grief, and raw defiance. And Stark's not a hero. Honestly, he's not even close, but he's a survivor. And in this world, that might be the most dangerous thing you can go through and be. So, the writing style, Richard Kadrey's prose isn't neat or lyrical. It's fast, it is filthy, it is furious. Every line feels like it was carved out with a switchblade. The book doesn't waste words. The style is it's tight, it's punchy, and it's soaked in noir influence. The sentence the sentences crackle with energy, part that pulp detective, part punk rock, and that combination gives Sandman Slim its distinct flavor of that chaos, that cynical nature, and that dangerous addiction. The first person narration is where the book really shines. Stark's voice isn't just a perspective, it's his personality. He's funny, he's crude, and it's honestly, he's endlessly quotable. He's the kind of guy who would make you laugh right after stabbing a demon in the face. And Richard Kadrey nails that balance between that dark gallow humor and quiet grief. You feel the weight of every scar, but you also get the sense that laughing through the pain is the only way our main character knows how to keep moving. There's this rhythm within the pacing. It feels like a movie. There's a bunch of short bursts of violence followed by moments of grim reflection. You can see the camera angles in your head. You can see the flickering lights, the blood soaked trench coats, the city that never sleeps but probably should. What's most impressive, though, is how the story is written in a way that feels grounded. Even though there's angels and demons sharing that same space with like bartenders and hitmen, and somehow it makes sense. And the writing never goes through and forgets the roots, the street level roots it's coming from, even with all those celestial politics that start creeping in when you really get that heaven and hell battle and tension that happens without the book. And really, at its core, Sandman Slim's about survival, not the heroic kind where you climb up out of the rubble stronger and wiser, but the kind where you're left wondering what's left of you once you're done crawling out. The use of revenge in this story as an engine is what's really interesting to go through and explore when it comes to identity after trauma. James Stark spent 11 years in hell, and that changes a person. It really strips away your morality, your self worth, your empathy towards other people. And the questions start haunting him. It isn't about who betrayed me, but what am I now? I'm too human for hell, too scarred for heaven, and too dangerous for earth. It's that in between existence that Stark is caught between these worlds with feeling alone, feeling like he doesn't belong anywhere. And that's what gives this book its soul, its foundation there. There's a persistent undercurrent of alienation for Stark. Stark's walking through Los Angeles like a ghost. He's invisible to the living, irrelevant to the divine, and the city mirrors him perfectly. It's cruel, it's decaying, it's pretending to be alive. And LA is that reflection of the human condition. It's all noise and neon lights on the surface, but hollow underneath. The tone within the story is a mix of brutal violence and dark comedy that honestly shouldn't work, but somehow does. One minute you're reading about Stark tearing through enemies with unholy fury, the next you're laughing at a line so sarcastic it cuts through that tension clean in half. And that's the beauty of this world. Even when it's grotesque, it's so much fun. But buried under all that grit and gore is something surprisingly tender. A flickering of longing. Stark isn't just angry, he's mourning. The people he lost, the humanity he can't get back, and the version of himself that didn't survive hell. And the story never lets you forget that pain and the price of that survival. And sometimes the cost of revenge is realizing you've become exactly what you're fighting. So let's go through and talk about the pros and the cons, because there's some things within this book that absolutely it nails. It's so well done, but there's also some things that could potentially be some stumbling parts with this. Starting off with the pros, James Stark himself, he's easily one of the most magnetic anti-heroes in urban fantasy that I've gone through and read so far. He's brutal, he's sarcastic, and he's completely unpredictable. But underneath all that rage, there's this flicker of humanity that makes him really impossible to go through and hate. You root for him even when you know you probably shouldn't, because he's doing so much messed up things. The world building is so well done. Los Angeles is grimy, it's surreal, but it's grounded. The angels running nightclubs, hitmen's dealing with curses, demons drinking bourbon in the alleyways, it all fits. It's messy, it's chaotic, but in the best possible way. The dialogue is done so well within this story, and I have not read a story that anyone can go through and write snarkiness like Richard Kadrey. The banter's so well done. The insults are top tier. There's so much dark humor. It's the kind of writing that makes you smirk even when someone's getting dismembered. That's all I'm going to say. The pacing does not slow down. You barely have time to process one fight before the next one goes through and starts kicking in the door. It's relentless, but it never feels bloated. Every chapter has that punch in the rib moment from a pacing perspective. Going through and jumping into the cons, there are some side characters that could have had a better flesh out moments. There are some that show up and disappear just as quickly, and it feels like Kadrey went through and with all the chaos and the juggling of the characters, some of these supporting cast kind of got pushed to the side, at least in book one. The humor, I mentioned, for me, it works very well. That's why I went through and put it in the pros. But the humor can also be a con here because it's not going to be for everyone. I can think of a few people that I would not recommend this story for because of the grim snarkiness, the dark humor. If you like that kind of stuff, you're going to go through and love this. But if you need more of a clean language or tidy morality, this book you will not go through and like, because this book does not pull punches ever within the whole book. It just goes one beat after the next. Crazy fun. Sometimes the story feels like it's sprinting faster than you can think. There are moments where the politics, the supernatural politics, can get tangled up, and you just have to ride that wave instead of trying to entangle it. But honestly, that rawness fits the tone of this book. Sandman Slim isn't, it's not supposed to be pretty. It's supposed to be hard hitting, like a back alley brawl kind of thing. At the end of the day, Sandman Slim isn't a book that asks for your approval. It dares you to keep up. It's loud, it's violent, and it's unapologetically cruel. But underneath all that carnage, it's surprisingly human. And what makes it stick isn't the magic or the monsters. It's James Stark. He's not on a quest to save the world. He's just trying to survive. That kind of raw, personal motivation gives that story so much weight. It's about his anger, sure, but it's also about the loss, the regret, and the stubbornness to stay down. And Richard Kadrey writes like someone who sees the world as an ugly place, but yet decides to laugh anyway. And that's what gives Sandman Slim its pulse. It's chaos with a conscience. Every joke, every bloody showdown, every grim reflection feels earned because it's coming from someone who's been through hell and crawled back still swinging. If you like your fantasy gritty, fast, and full of bite, if you want a story that bleeds attitude and has equal heart, Sandman Slim goes through and delivers, and you need to go through and check out this book right away. If you've read Sandman Slim, I would love to hear your thoughts of the novel. If you haven't read Sandman Slim, let me know your favorite anti-hero. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, stay overbooked.